shit's just getting done. So when you first showed up on the podcast, I'm like, who fuck's this Cliff Bauman guy?
Not like
who the fuck's the new guy.
I know what you're saying.
More like, because just Nick don't just bring anybody on. You know what I'm saying? So it was like more
where'd this guy come from?
Meaning, I was interested. I wanted to find out what Nick's on you, because I knew there had to be something, is what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
So for me to be sitting here week after week with you like this, dude.
Yeah.
You answer that question every fucking week, dude, with every conversation you have with me, dude.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. It kind of validates why I'm trying to do what I'm doing here with, the whole mental health warrior and the podcast, and kind of what I want people to get from it as we move forward with the podcast and as things change. And so as you guys kind of eavesdrop into our conversation, if you don't know who the person is next to me, that's Kevin. He's the guy behind the scenes.
Oh, he's
the one that makes me look good. He's the one that puts all the music together and everything. Yeah, because
tell me this was
it's going full live. So I had to throw it on him because he keep him on his toes like he does me. But it's like Mike. There you go. Cheers. That's that gluten-free beer that Nick loves so much. Real men drink gluten-free beer.
What?
But it's dark beer. I do got a lot of Irish blood in me. I'm a descendant of Irish king. So
hey, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you if you were English.
You would have nicked it right. You're like, Nick, I can't work with that guy. He's English, can't do it. Maybe I don't know.
Is that what's wrong with Beg Adel?
You have to check his DNA and find out what's going on, right?
I always pictured Beg Adel to be the Viking leader of Veteran Trash Talk. That's one of my image of him.
Oh yeah. So yeah. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. Sorry, we just kind of jumped right into it, but that's all right. We're going to do that from now on. So if you watch the first couple of podcasts, you kind of saw that I talked, early on of my life, and kind of how I grew up on a farm and kind of living off the land. And my childhood was, it's fun and free. I really don't have anything negative to say about it. A lot of crazy stuff went on. And then I kind of moved into my military career and then kind of moved into my suicide attempt. And if you watch the last episode 3, I kind of went from when I woke up from the hospital and then got moved into the mental ward and talked about that in detail, which is something I don't normally talk about a lot. And anybody who's experienced that or who's ever been through that, I'm sure you understood what I was talking about being locked in that room or you're not being able to leave and being there with not a place where you didn't want to be, and kind of how, everybody only has their own story, right? And Kevin, you can attest to this. You always have that one moment in your life where you're like, wow, I just don't want to do that no more. I'm going to change or the light bulb goes on, right? And that was my light bulb moment.
Sure.
And, and I think it's important that we all, think about those things. And, where you kind of hit rock bottom, if you want to call it rock bottom, or that, oh, Jesus moment or wherever, like, I don't want to go down this path anymore. I want to continue with, I just don't want to do that no more. And that's kind of what I was talking about when I was in a mental health facility is, that was kind of my, I don't want to do that no more. I mean, that scared the shit out of me. And I knew at that point I had to get help. And that's what I wanted to talk about. And I think, when I started the podcast on December 20th, of course, I talk about this in episode 1. It was important to me because that was the 19th anniversary of my suicide attempt. And I don't talk about it in some detail, but, I went from A to close to Z as you can get without completing, because had my brother not got that funny feeling at work, I wouldn't be sitting here. I would have died. And the hard thing for my family throughout all of that is when I did the video for VA Make the Connection, I didn't talk about this, is my family, and they watched my podcast, so they can be a little upset with me for what I'm about to say. But when they watched the VA Make the Connection video that I made, that was the first time that I said the number of sleeping pills that I took. And so for all these years, I told my parents and my family that I really didn't mean to kill myself. But when they watched that video and I said the number of sleeping pills I took was 20 or 22, I don't remember the number exactly. I have to go back and rewatch the video. They knew that, I I had every intent of, ending my life that day. And, that was very hard for them. When Able Channel, and I talked about that some, filmed the documentary on me, which you can go out to the ablechannel.com and you can pull up it and stream it for free now, the documentary. My brother, he did the first time he did an interview and never talked about it. That was the first time he's ever talked about coming home and finding me on the couch and rushing me to the hospital. And I'm surprised he actually did the film, to be honest with you, because, it took some coaxing for him to do it. But he didn't. I'm thankful that he did. And he told a very powerful side of his story. But even after the filming, he doesn't talk about it. I know he's changed the furniture in that living room, a couple of times since then, and some other things. And, you think about that when you're in that room and how the furniture was arranged. He doesn't arrange the furniture that way anymore, and I don't blame him. But it's probably just how he deals with it. Everybody deals with tragedy in their life differently, right? And that's kind of what I hope to do with the Mental Health Warrior is we all have tragedies. We all have things that happen. It's how we learn to deal with it, right? We can have traumatic events that happen to us as a child that can affect us through adulthood. We can have traumatic events as adults that can affect us adults, but also can affect our children because we project it onto them. And so, one thing that go with what I want to do here is kind of help everybody just kind of sit back, relax, take a drink of this fine gluten-free beer. I'm going to keep saying that through every podcast I do while I'm drinking beer, just to kind of rub it in the nick a little bit. And just realize that, together we're a community. That's what we do at Veterans Trash Talk. We want everybody to come out and talk about their issues and problems. Kev and I, we've shared a lot of personal stories. And if he ever wants to come on my show and share some of the things, he's actually had an amazing life. And some of the stories he's told me, I was just absolutely floored about. And so I'm kind of going to get it.
Time out. You're setting the bar way too high.
Oh, don't undercut yourself, brother. No. You've done things that they should be writing books about. Wait till I talk to Vincent at Life Is My Movie. He should be doing a movie on you, man.
Can we use the word chaotic?
Hey, absolutely. That's what people want. They want chaos, right? That's why I don't know if anybody out there watches Rick and Morty, right? I love watching Rick and Morty, the cartoon. You ever watch that, Kevin?
That's
great.
Honestly, the reason I don't is because when that came out, there was like 3 years of U.S. culture that I completely missed, almost 4 when I was over in Scotland. You have no idea how disappointed I was when my hometown of Kilmarnock got its first Burger King.
Really?
Yeah, it's a good thing there weren't guns over there, man.
Yeah, but that brings up a good subject, right? So, we've all been in the military. Most of us, we traveled to foreign countries, right? And I've been in Germany. I went to Germany. I love Germany. I love traveling around Germany and getting drunk and then getting up and doing PT the next day and, running 7 miles. I think we had that on Veterans Trash Talk today on the Facebook page, and we was all talking about that. But it always cracked me up is people would always bitch and complain about being in a foreign country. But most of the people that bitch and complain never left the base. Or they were barrack rats, right? So those are the ones that are always bitching and complaining. Oh, it's terrible over here. You can't do nothing. I'm like, really? Man, I was out every single night I was in Germany. I was out. And me and my buddy, we'd be rolling in at 2 o'clock in the morning. And, we'd get up and go do PT. And then, you come back, you shower, and you go to the hangar and you work as aviation. And, we'd skip lunch to take a nap, right? Because you're tired, right? So you skip lunch, take a nap, right? And then you get off work and you go back and you're like, let's just head into town and we'll give a bite to eat at the local restaurant, right? Next thing you know, it's 2 o'clock in the morning again. You go rolling in. I got a good story about that. I'll have to tell sometime that if anybody's been to Germany, of course, I'm Greek on my mom's side of the family. I'll tell this story real quick. That's just how this podcast is going to go. And so we're there in Mannheim, me and my buddy Steve, we were going out one night, and to anybody's at a restaurant in Germany, most of the restaurants have a Stammtisch, and that's kind of the owner's table. And it's a big honor to sit at the owner's table. And so I wanted to eat Greek food, so we went to a local Greek restaurant there off base there. And, I got to talking to the owner, and, of course, my mom cooked Greek food, I cooked Greek food. And so I was just talking about the kind of the food that we cooked growing up as kids and ate, and he only got really interested in that. So next thing you know, he invites us over to his table, and we're sitting at the stomp dish there in the middle of the restaurant, and we're drinking ouzo, right? Yeah, ouzo. Oof. Ugh. Anyway, so we're having a good time. We're carrying on, and it's 1:30, 2 o'clock. Well, if you've been in Germany, the buses and taxis and stuff, they don't run. And we're about, I don't know, 4 or 5 miles from the base, so we had to walk back, which is probably a good thing. But as we're going back, we find this bicycle on the side of the road that we thought, hey, we're gonna ride the bike back, right? And so the chain was off it, so we flip it over and I put the chain on, right? And we get on it, and Steve's driving, and we start taking off, and I jump on the back seat, and the chain pops off. It's like, oh crap, man! So we do that for a while. We don't get very far, maybe 5, 6 blocks, but every time we start pedaling, the crank was broke. We should realize it because he's too drunk, and so we kept putting the chain on. Finally, we just gave up and threw the bike off to the side of the road to walk back. And so we go to the gate. Then we get back to the gate, Mannheim, and the gate guard just got this weird look on his face. We come through the gate when he looks at our IDs, like, what the hell you guys been doing? Didn't realize what his thing was. Like, well, okay, well, fuck you, buddy, whatever. You're just jealous because we were out having a good time. I don't know. And so we get back to the barracks, we go to sleep, and I wake up the next morning and I go to the latrine, and my whole face is covered in grease because of the chain on the bicycle falling off. And we didn't realize it. So that's why the MP was looking at us all kind of stupid. And right. So that was a rough night, man. I think I actually took a night off after that one. But then the next night we went back out. But it was all good. It's all good and fun. And man, the stories that veterans can tell about the camaraderie and going out with your buddies at night and hanging out and having a good time. What a great thing to remember, especially if you're having a bad time in your life. Kick back and think about those memories. That's what the mental health war is all about. Get those tools in that toolbox, man. And so I talked about, bringing up your phone, and when your phone works, my phone doesn't work right now, but when your phone works, and pulling out those pictures and looking at them and laughing and maybe hitting up your buddy on Facebook or Instagram. I've touched base, about 2 years ago with my buddy Todd that I grew up with. You guys saw me deer hunting on his land with the Squid Games outfit on. We've been good friends. Hopefully him and his family will come out this spring to Virginia and spend their spring break with us here. And if he does, I'll get him on the podcast and he can get on and talk. We used to do a lot of crazy shit in high school together, him and I and another friend of ours, Mike Sutherland. It was funny because when the Able channel was going to do they wanted to film me in my hometown of Aurora. And so I called Todd and Mike and had to kind of prod them a little bit to meet the film crew and kind of talk about things. And so we go to a restaurant there that Mike had come up with. And so we're sitting there and we wasn't always, church boys, we would run around and do stuff. So we're sitting there Googling statute of limitations on some of the stuff and what we cannot talk about. What they can was start rolling. So we had to make sure we shape our conversations correctly because we don't know anybody knocking on our doors when the film comes out. But that's all good fun about growing up and doing things. And so, what I wanted to talk about with this podcast is, moving forward. I think the next one after this one, this is episode 4. I can't believe we're already on episode 4. Time's flying by. So I think for episode 4, I'm going to talk about, we recapped everything that kind of went on, and you met the guy behind the scenes, the great myth, the legend, Kevin there. He's the one that makes me look good and it puts all the music together. We did have another veteran that sent in their music, and we're going to we had some issues loading the files, so we're trying to get that fixed. It's a little bit different music. It's not country. This is more of rock music that he sent in, Bill did. Thank you, Bill, for sending that in, and we'll try to get that on this next episode coming up. If not, maybe on episode 5. I think on episode 5, I'm going to talk about the Great Boat Rescue. I get a lot of questions about that. I've kind of hinted about that a couple of times in the last couple of podcasts. And so I think in episode 5, I'm going to really talk about the boat rescue and what happened there on October 3rd, 2009, when we were out fishing and my younger son, and we saw a barge hit a small vessel, and it capsized the vessel, and I was able to save 3 out of the 4 fishermen. And I'll go into that story in detail and kind of how it affected my life, but also affected the life of my 5-year-old son, because he had some PTSD issues over that, and dealing with boats on the water and things like that. And so I want to, kind of dive into that and talk about that, because, a lot of times, as adults, and we go through a traumatic experience, we often don't think about how that affected our kids at that level. And, that's something I kind of want to hit on and talk about a little bit, because, Junior loved fishing. He loved going on the boat, and he never paid attention to the big ships that were around us before. But after the boating accident, you'll find out more about that on episode 5. He got really nervous about it, and he was scared and kind of get freaked out, when these big ships would come by. And so we had to get a therapist and kind of get him to work through that and understand that those thoughts and feelings were completely normal. But I think sometimes as adults, we forget that if you have that experience or something happens and your children happen to be with you, how does that affect them? I mean, we've all seen, I think it was on Instagram. I'm pretty sure it was Instagram, but there was a truck that was pulling a trailer, and it was high winds, and the trailer started fishtailing, and the truck rolled off, and the mom was like, "Oh my gosh!" But then you heard a little girl in the back screaming and crying. They wasn't in the wreck; they were watching the wreck. But so that had an effect on that little girl. And of course, you don't know if they ever talked to a little girl about it. But I mean, just to hear that girl start screaming and crying in the background, that became a traumatic event for her. So I'm going to kind of touch about that and kind of what I did with Junior, and kind of try to help him, and kind of what we did, and how all that went from the boat rescue and moving forward. And then I think after that, I think we're going to have a couple of guests come on the show and talk about for them what it means to be a mental health warrior. I think that's important. Hopefully I can get Kevin to open up and be on the camera again, and let him talk about, some of the things that makes him get through the day and things that he enjoys to do. And he's got a pretty amazing story, even though he's going to say he doesn't, but he does. Maybe he'll talk in a Scottish language about it, and and make an understanding. But it's good. It's fun. I just want to laugh and joke, and I want to appreciate everybody that's been watching my podcast. I'm truly honored, even if I get one person to view it, one person to like it. It's just I'm just so happy to be able to have the ability to do this, and to go out and talk and try to help people out there that maybe aren't in a good place and not feeling right, or just want to know somebody else's story that compares to them. And maybe you guys, there's similarities, and maybe there's differences, and maybe how one recovers is always different from the other one. And that's just how it is. We're all different, right? God made us all different. We're all different beings, and that's fine. And how things affect me will affect Kevin differently, or anybody else listening differently. But the situations could be similar. I will tell you that 2 other people that were on the team with me at the Pentagon, Jack and Bill, the 2 guys there, they wasn't affected the way I was. They dealt with their pain and seeing what they saw differently than I did. And it doesn't make it any less how they felt, or make how I felt any less either. Jack talks about that in the documentary on the Able channel. How I kind of internalized it, and how he became angry, and he wanted to just go out and kill somebody or get revenge for what they did. And then I was internalizing the fact that I felt guilty because I didn't find anybody alive. And it was just 2 different people who at the same time dealing with the same situation. I'm talking about the Pentagon 9/11, if I've just lost somebody there in my story. Jack, a good friend of mine, was with me. There's 3 of us on the team. And on the Able channel, he talks about, how he felt and kind of what he thought was going on. And then he kind of really summed it up, kind of how I kind of internalized it and felt guilty and ashamed because I didn't find anybody alive. And where he felt completely different, where he just wanted to go out and kill somebody and get revenge for what they did. And so it's kind of interesting to see how that we take things differently as human beings. And I say this all the time is, it's okay that things affect everybody differently. And it doesn't make your pain any less. It doesn't make their pain any less. And so, there were things that I saw and did in Iraq, and everybody who's ever been to war knows it's not pretty. It's ugly. And, we all deal with things differently. And I think that's what we're trying to do here with the Veterans Trash Talk Network, is try to talk about all kinds of things So everybody knows that no matter what you're feeling or what's going on in your life, that it's okay. I say this all the time. It's okay not to be okay. It's your life experience. Don't cheapen it. Don't think that you're not entitled to something because you didn't see the war or you didn't actually see combat or you didn't do that. We all serve together. Anytime you sign that dotted line to serve for your country, you're entitled to everything that goes on, no matter what you think you did or didn't do. I talked to Vietnam vets who never saw one bullet ever fired in Vietnam and didn't think they were entitled to anything. And I'm like, why? I've talked to people that joined the military during the time when we didn't have a lot of wars going on. They did 20 years and got out, and they didn't think they were entitled and think because they never saw a war. And I'm like, why? Being in the military will break your body. I don't care if you're at war or not. Just the type of training we do and the things they did, it will break your body down. And that's what the VA is there for. And that's why we have the disability and the payments and things. And I always tell this, you need to understand that the VA disability is different than if you lost a limb or you're blind or you're deaf. That is set up for the day that you join the military, that fund. And they put X number of dollars knowing that, you may or may not have these injuries, this, that, or the other. And so I just implore anybody out there that if you joined the military and you were in the military, I don't care if you were in basic training and broke your leg, and 20 years later you're having issues because of that broken leg, you need to go onto the VA.gov and file for a claim and start doing it, because you're entitled to that and you need to get it. My brother, and I talked about this before, he was in the Guard for 20 years, got out and never did his VA claim. And he's been out for, I don't know, 10 years. And I finally got him to sit down and start going through the process. Once I went through mine with my retirement, kind of understood how it worked. And maybe one of the shows I'll do, because I think it's important, is maybe I can get a VSO to come on and a veteran service officer and really talk about, that process and doing the VA and getting it, and the appeals process. If your claim comes back and you didn't get a rating as high as you think it should, there is a process in place where you can go in and file claims for that. But also, I want people to understand the benefits you get. Even if you're rated 0, you're still entitled to something, right? And so, I want people to be aware of that, because a lot of people aren't aware of the things that you're entitled to, whether you're at 0 or 10 or 40, 50, 60. People pretty much know from 50 on what you're entitled to. But if you're less than 50, you're still entitled to things. And I think, people need to go out and understand that. And so maybe one of the episodes I'll try to get a VSO to come on and really talk about that in detail. Because as a mental health warriors, that's just another tool you have in your toolbox, right? So, if you could get a little extra money coming in or something like that with injuries, or get them fixed because there's something that happened to you while you were serving, just think about the amount of pressure that would take off your life and how much better it would make it. And so just always keep that in the back of your mind. I want to thank everybody who watched the show. I want to thank Kevin who didn't know he was coming on tonight, so I just made him come on anyway. But I just appreciate you all out there. I want you all to have a great week. And I look forward to you watching this episode and then episode 5, where I talk about the boat rescue on the Chesapeake Bay in 2009, October 3rd. You guys have a great week and take care.
Something, because my feeling is, Cliff, it's rare. Like we talked about this earlier. Sometimes even people who are willing to share their experiences actually experience that information they're willing to share being used against them when it's not the right people. So that can almost kind of,
doing what I do ended my military career.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
There was people at NGB that, well, I was number 1 on the list to promote to W5. I was in the W5 position with vouchers to promote me, and the refrad list came. They said, "Oh, they're going to refrad people," and everybody's like, "Oh shit, they want to kick."
That don't know, because remember, we're going to have millions of viewers one day, and they're going to be wanting to.
Yeah, well, refrad's a force shaping tool the Army uses. Then people in the Title 10 program they use to, I guess, at any given time, kick anybody out for any reason.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yep.
So that would almost be the North Carolina equivalent of right to work state, which means we can fire you any fucking time we want.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so we always joke there in the Title 10 program when they have a refrad board, they want to kick somebody out. Because there's no rhyme or reason for it.
Right.
And regulatory, they don't have to do it. So there were people where I worked at that didn't like me doing what I did. They were jealous because maybe of the attention that I was getting. They thought it impacted my work. It never impacted my work as as an automation officer. I saved the Guard millions of dollars there in aviation. I got the laptops that we used for the maintenance on the aircraft. I got them upgraded more than any system that the Army had, because I fought for those soldiers to have that. Right. And so when I would take a month off in September to go do my suicide speaking events, I was still doing my job.
You're right. But
there were people inside that building that were jealous over the fact of attention that I was getting and other stuff. And when my name came down on the refrad board, people I worked with were shocked, and they were just disheartened. They couldn't believe that because I'd done so much good. I mean, my whole point was just trying to save soldiers' lives.
Exactly.
Right. Exactly. So what? So So that was a hard time for me. That first 72 hours after I got the phone call, which was 3 days before Thanksgiving. I was that. Matter of fact, I got to the point where I just walked upstairs and in tears and told my wife I didn't want to drink no more because I was going down that road, and I was pissed and mad and hurt, and but then I had to, think about as time went on, because you can't change it, you can't argue it, you can't. Once they come down and your name's on it, you're done. You're fucking done at all. You're done. They gave us 7 months. So I had less than 7 months to do all my retirement bullshit, right? And so so this is November, the end of November, and my retirement date's 31 August the following year. Well, here's something else. The Able channel wrapped up filming on me in January of that same year. They released it November, Veterans Day, that November. And then 2 weeks later, I got notified I was refratted.
That's just wrong, dude.
So
you got to remember, dude. I think I need to trademark this term because it might be a T-shirt one day, but I'm one of those chapter babies, dude. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
I went in when I was 17. I was out 10 days before my 20th birthday, and even then, I felt fucking lost.
Yeah.
I felt. That's why I ended up in the French Foreign Legion, dude.
Yeah. That's a story. That's a story we got to do on the show, man.
Are we still? I hate you, man. That's cool. That. I love you.
Nah. But you're right. You bring up a good point.
So, but the thing is I think as veteran trash talkers, what we need to do is we need to abide by the definition of what is a veteran. A veteran is somebody who has served for 180 days.
Yeah.
Honorably, right?
Unless you've been injured.
And of course.
Right. So let's put that. If you get medically discharged because you're injured,
I'm not sticking up for myself. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know if I'd call myself mature now. I'm 55. I think I get.
I'm 52. Fuck, I'll never grow up.
Exactly. But looking back at that time in my life, I don't think. First of all, I don't think I appreciated how immature I still was because even though we think we're men.
Oh yeah, we
ready to take on the communist horde, even though I was only going to refuel some fucking helicopters so they could.
Hey, that's important.
Trash talk, that's what we do in veteran trash talk. That's what we do in veteran trash talk. Bravely every